remember when I posted these last year?
What are you blowing the whistle on?
That there are technologies at the South Pole Station that people can't even consider that exist on this planet. Directed energy weapon systems is something that people need to get in their vocabulary fast. The Ice Cube neutrino detector is not simply a passive listening device as presented for the science that they're claiming it to do. It also has the capacity to transmit. There are embedded in the ice what are called digital optical modules, DOMs. They're about the size of a basketball. The array embedded in the ice is 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer. It is the world's largest telescope. And now, because we have proven that it can transmit, it's the world's largest directed energy weapon system. It is responsible for the earthquakes in Christchurch, New Zealand.
You've heard of the active denial system in the military. It's this dish that sends out a beam of frequency towards people that are looking to do harm. It'll make you stop in your tracks. It'll make you feel like you got to vomit. It'll make you feel like you're on fire. It can even put voices in your head. It's called the active denial system in the military. And the Admiral Tabbas, Thos has this group of people coming at him because they don't know who he is when he lands his ship. He says, I raised my staff and sent out a ray of vibration which stopped them still in their tracks. Sounds like the active denial system to me. Same technology, just a different year. What we're doing now, we're just simply rediscovering everything that already existed.
Today we're doing a deep dive into one of the most talked about claims of the year, that U.S. forces possibly used a direct energy weapon, or a sonic device, during the raid in Venezuela. Eyewitnesses described sudden physiological effects, like nosebleeds, vomiting, and collapsing out of nowhere, being brought down to their knees within an instant. These weapons are not a conspiracy theory. They are very real and very dangerous. In the aftermath, one of Maduro's former security guards spoke of his experience in detail, saying how the U.S. deployed troops, they immediately cut out the power, and specifically it was Delta troops, which, in case you don't know, they are Army Special Forces, meaning the elite of elites, to be said. So their radar systems suddenly stopped working completely, and then the drones appeared. What was described as a very intense sound wave suddenly struck the Venezuelan soldiers. He said, it felt like my head was exploding from the inside. We all started bleeding from the nose. Some were vomiting blood. We fell to the ground, unable to move. This testimony was widely shared on social media and even reposted by Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary. Though, obviously, it's not officially verified, nor do I think it ever will be. This is where they would use that famous line, well, we can neither confirm nor deny that this thing took place, which is not surprising. Directed energy weapons as a whole have been around for decades. Yes, decades. The military has been researching numerous ways to use energy as a weapon, as in microwaves, millimeter waves, lasers, or acoustic waves. Some of those are pretty much the main category, going from laser weapons that, according to them, are used to disable your sensory, microwave systems that are researched for disrupting electronics, but then there's the millimeter wave system, the most known, which is the active denial system. They say it's to create a, quote, painful but temporary burning sensation on the skin for crowd control. It protects millimeter waves intended to repel people. That is a direct quote. In reality, it cooks you. It cooks you like you were stuffed in a microwave. After reading the symptoms, instantly I thought of Havana Syndrome. Havana Syndrome is the informal name given to a cluster of unexplained neurological symptoms. All of them were reported in the late 2010s by U.S. and Canadian diplomats that were stationed in Havana, Cuba. Since then, similar symptoms have been reported by everybody from intelligence officers to even their family members. Victims consistently describe sudden onset symptoms, often beginning with a loud buzzing, grinding, or piercing sound, disturbing the senses, a feeling of extreme pressure in the head, a sense of being hit or targeted, localized discomfort, also known as directional discomfort. So if they were to point it at, your kneecap, your pain is localized. Also neurological and physical effects, severe headaches, vertigo, dizziness, balance problems, nausea and vomiting, nosebleeds, visual disturbances, temporary disorientation, long-term symptoms, like a flu that never really disappears, memory impairment, cognitive slowing or brain fog, sleep disturbances, sensitivity to light and sound, and chronic migraines. Some affected individuals were medically retired due to this. As far as medical findings, this is where we get serious because multiple independent medical evaluations have found abnormalities in the brain from MRI and CT scans, mild traumatic brain injury without blunt force trauma, and trauma to the vestibular system, which is balance in spatial orientation. Notably, many patients have shown objective neurological injury, not psychosomatic illness. This is why the syndrome could not be dismissed as some type of mass hysteria, like they were trying to tell people in the beginning. The US government acknowledges the injuries, and it's provided medical care and compensation for the injuries, but still it is not given a name. Intelligence assessments remain divided. In short, the symptoms are real, the injuries are real, the cause is still unconfirmed. Regardless, we know that our neurological function is completely disrupted without visible injury, and that subject goes back for decades as well. As an example, the heart attack gun. Let me know if you want me to cover that. So with these traditional definitions of attacking the enemy, foreign or domestic, no longer really apply and have not applied in a very long time. My most important takeaway: you do not need to believe that a secret weapon was definitely used, or that this was a coordinated global attack to acknowledge that this is truth. A group of trained professionals experienced sudden neurological injuries with no conventional explanation, and those injuries were documented. That alone is historically significant. To understand why Havana Syndrome keeps coming up in discussion about directed energy weapons, we have to talk about something that most people have never heard of, something that's been documented for over 60 years. It's called the Frey Effect. In 1961, a neuroscientist named Alan Frey discovered something unexpected. When people were exposed to pulsed microwave radiation under specific conditions, they reported hearing sounds, buzzing, clicking, knocking, even when there was no speaker, no sound wave, no noise in the room. But the sound wasn't entering through their ears. It was being perceived inside the head. This phenomenon became known as the Frey Effect, or microwave auditory effect. What's happening is subtle. The microwaves cause extreme, tiny, rapid temperature changes. So small, sometimes you wouldn't even feel that there's heat being applied, but just enough to create pressure waves that stimulate the auditory system. The brain interprets that stimulation as sound. It's being replicated, studied, and documented in numerous peer-reviewed research for decades. Now here's another piece. What are EM bioeffects? The Frey effect is one example of something called electromagnetic bioeffects. EM bioeffects describe how electromagnetic fields like radio frequency or microwave energy interact with biological tissue. Some effects are thermal, meaning that they involve heating. Others are non-thermal, meaning they don't rely on heating the body at all. These non-thermal effects can include sensory disturbances, neurological responses, changes in balance perception. Most of these effects have been observed in laboratory settings, not battlefields. And it's important to say this clearly. Documenting a bioeffect does not mean that there is a deployable weapon, according to the government. But it does mean the human nervous system can respond to electromagnetic energy in ways that aren't obvious or extremely visible.